It's a blazing hot afternoon, 44 degrees. A couple of days ago, it was 48 degrees. The Delhi NCR region has never experienced this searing heat in ages, and it is a timely reminder that climate change, it is real. Now, cars, they aren't the primary contributor to global warming, but the automobile industry is everybody's favorite whipping boy, and that's why the change that you will see is in the cars that you will be driving. Electric cars are coming at you thick and fast, and the latest to join the fray is Kia with this, the EV6. We are at the BIC on a really hot afternoon to test this out. And I'm going to jump into the car because if I stand here any longer, the soles of my shoes are going to melt into the track. And the interiors.
But you still have to do the styling walk around.
The styling of the EV6. Now, in terms of the design, it looks very different from anything you have seen, and it sort of previews Kia's new design language. Also, I have to point out that a lot of the new electric vehicles, they still retain that huge gaping grills when they don't need so much cooling. The EV6, it marks a departure from that trend. It has this slim grille out here, which sort of evokes memories of Kia's typical tiger nose grille, and the gaps in the air dam below, that actually feeds a little cooling air into the battery and the components. It is of functional use. But overall, the styling, it actually looks very different from everything else, and it looks futuristic in keeping with the whole EV vibe. You also have full LED lights, these repeater indicators, big 19-inch wheels, and because the EV6 runs on a dedicated EV-only platform, that's allowed Kia's engineers to have a really low bonnet, a very short bonnet, and next to no overhangs. Look at the short overhangs out there, in contrast to the massive wheelbase. And the massive wheelbase, that liberates a lot of space inside the cabin. The profile, it is very distinctive, has this sort of crossover kind of vibe going for it. Notice this black element at the base of the doors, which actually runs into the tail lamp out here. So it's a cool styling element, and the black element, it sort of breaks the visual mass in profile. But come out to the rear, and this I think is the coolest angle on the EV6. Unmissable. Really nice, striking. It's got the full width LED tail lamp, the new Kia logo out here. This is the GT line trim. Both the variants come in the GT line trim, and I think it just looks so distinctive, unmissable on the road. What do you think of the styling? Let us know in the comments below. Finally cocooned inside the Kia EV6, and good thing, the seats are ventilated, the air conditioning works really well. I must point out a cool thing before we go ahead. The air conditioning is on this panel, the direct access, but you can toggle between the menu and the audio controls also. So using this button, air conditioning, and now the menu for the stereo. It's got a banging Meridian sound system, a curved infotainment screen, so two 12.3 inch screens in this curved panel, 12.3 inches for your infotainment, 12.3 inches for your digital cockpit. You have the new design for the Kia steering wheel, the drive mode selector, just over here, a button on the steering wheel, so you can toggle between eco, normal and sport mode. The drive mode selector out here, sort of a regular rotary drive mode selector. The wireless charging, it has got cooling also. Normally when you leave your phone on a wireless charging pad, it gets really hot, but this is cool, so the phone will not really heat up. The materials used, these are sustainable materials. Kia calls it vegan materials, and it uses the recycled waste from plastic bottles, so it's Kia's move towards carbon neutrality. The materials used out here on the dash also, really cool, funky looking, futuristic vibe. Kia have always done really cool exteriors as well as interiors, and the EV6 is no different. In fact, it moves the game on a bit. You will notice that there's a lot of storage space, and that's because the floor is completely flat. It is a high floor because the batteries are underneath, but it has liberated a lot of space. But Kia, they've not moved towards this whole lounge style seating, but they moved towards something a little bit more sporty. So this all, the whole driving environment sort of cocoons the driver and gives it a slightly sporty vibe, which I actually love. The benefit of the massive 2.9 meter long wheelbase is massive amounts of space in the back. This seat, the driver's seat, is adjusted to my driving position, and I still have acres of free knee room, so plenty of space out here. Also a completely flat floor, so you can seat 3 abreast in comfort, no problems at all. But I have to point out that because of the batteries, the floor is actually much higher than in a regular car, and that means there is no way that I can tuck in my toes under the front seat. Plus, there is not enough under thigh support, so I'm sitting in a little bit of a knees raised position, and over a long journey this can get a bit tiring because there is no support for your legs. But otherwise, in terms of space, there is plenty of it in the EV6. The EV6 rides on a pure electric architecture. This E-GMP platform is the Hyundai Motor Group platform, and the EV6 is the first car in India that we've experienced on this new platform. And because there is no need to accommodate an engine, so the engineers have been free to really play around with the layout. So it's got very short overhangs, a very long wheelbase. The bonnet space is next to nothing, just the crash zones that are required. That's why you have the short bonnet, a very low bonnet also. So the driving position, the view out, it's sort of like in a mid-engine supercar because the bonnet, it just drops off so aggressively and steeply. The benefit of this layout is also a lot of space inside the cabin, but because of the batteries and the floor that is mounted a little higher, you sit pretty high up. Not really an SUV, but sort of like a crossover driving position. Two variants of the EV6 will be offered in India, both on the GT line styling pack. Both get the 77.7 kilowatt hour battery, and the one that I'm driving right now, this is the all-wheel drive version. So it's got a motor on the front, a motor on the rear axle, and together they put out 320 horsepower and 605 newton meters of torque. The benefit is massive acceleration, 0 to 100 in 5.3 seconds. That's really fast. In fact, on my first lap out here at the BIC, I was shocked, really shocked at the turn of pace. And the other aspect of the EV6 is the way the suspension has been tuned. So it has not been tuned to be soft and roly-poly, but actually there is a good amount of body control. It doesn't descend into massive amounts of understeer. You throw it into a corner and the nose, it grips really well. And then when you floor it, you actually feel the rear drive tendency of the EV6. It sort of has torque vectoring, and you can feel the rear axle move about a bit. If you switch off ESP, you can actually get it sideways on the gas. Of course, this is not what it has been designed to do, and the racetrack is not really the proper environment to be testing out an electric car. But honestly, out here on the track, it is pretty impressive. And the move towards sportiness also reflects in sort of the tuning of the car. Now it has a sport mode. Every car has a sport mode, but you can also set up the brakes to be in a sportier setting where you get really sharp braking. So like here on the track where you just want it to be either on or off, you can do that. And then exit corners, and you can feel the tail moving around. And that really, to me, is the most surprising aspect of the EV6. A luxury electric vehicle, but sort of wants to drive in a sporty manner. And the engineers have made it and given it a sporting character. What the EV6 does not have is great steering. I think it's just too light. Right now we are in sport mode. There is this drive mode button out here where you can toggle between eco, normal and sport. But even in sport, there's not enough communication. It's sort of dead, the steering. We've only been driving it on the track, so I really can't give you a proper opinion about how it will drive on the road, our regular, not so smooth city roads. But impressions are that this is going to be a slightly stiffly sprung car. It's going to be firm, not going to be extremely plush. It will be comfortable, but I doubt it's going to be very plush. This will have a slightly sporty edge to it. I love doing that. And that's the thing with electric cars, the instantaneous response. It is just immediate. You step on it and it goes like a rocket. And especially in sport mode, the reactions are really quick. In fact, it takes some time to get used to the instantaneous reactions. At first, I was actually making myself sick because of the immediacy of the power response, the immediacy of the response to the throttle. It just slingshots itself out of the corner. it finds massive amounts of grip. In fact, you put slightly stickier tires on this and it'll set a really hot lap time around the BIC. And the way the nose turns into corners, again, a surprise. You also got to remember that this is a blazing hot day. It's showing 45 degrees outside. The tires are probably melting, the poor things. And despite that, it's going around corners very, very strongly. Now, practical aspects. It's got brake energy recuperation. So use the paddles and you can toggle between the modes. So you have 3 modes of regeneration, and then you have the I mode, which kind of gives you single pedal driving, heavy regeneration. So every time you get off the gas, you can feel the car slowing down, and I'm not touching the brakes. Again, the car slowing down. Then you accelerate. So Kia calls this I pedal, and this is I'm not braking. I put this off the brake and it stopped. So accelerate and put off the pedal and it stopped. So in stop-go city traffic, this actually will be a really nice mode to use. Of course, you have to get used to it. The most important question with any electric car is not how it goes around corners, but it is the range. And on the EV6, Kia claims a range of over 500 kilometers. Now, that is as tested range, but I suspect in the real world, you will still get 400 kilometers, which is actually damn good range. What more do you want? The EV6 also has another claim to fame, and that is the 800 volt charging. Now, that is purely academic because that needs a super fast charger, 350 kilowatts. It does not exist anywhere in India. But eventually, when you do get your hands on a super fast charger, this will charge from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. So in the time that it takes to go grab a cup of coffee and come back, it'll go from 10 to 80% charge, which bodes really well for the future. On a regular 50 kilowatt charger, which actually is the fast chargers in India, it'll take around 73 minutes from 10 to 80%, which is again really good, really quick charging, provided you have access to that infrastructure. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.2 seconds. Let's try it out. So drive mode in sport, left foot on the brake, right on the gas. There is no brake torquing it. Leave the... Oh. You really feel the G-forces. It comes at you really strong and it doesn't let up. It is effortless and it is inexhaustible. It just keeps going. And we're doing 180, 185, 190, 192, and yeah, that's the top speed, 192 kilometers per hour. The brakes also, really strong brakes. But of course, you can't really use it extensively on the track because then it overheats and starts to fade. Then again, this is not the environment to be testing out an electric car. The EV6, it feels like it has a nice low center of gravity. It obviously is heavy, 2 tons, but all of it is very low down, and that gives it good body control and enthusiastic cornering. Doesn't feel ponderous, doesn't feel like an SUV, even though you feel like you're sitting a little too high up. And you can feel the car working with you. Of course, there is plenty of electronics on the car. It doesn't let you do anything stupid unless you switch off ESP. But overall, it moves pretty well. Stylish, practical, fun to drive. The EV6, it ticks all the right boxes. The only real question to ask is whether Kia can ask for 70 lakh rupees for the EV6. In my opinion, they definitely can, considering that only 100 of these are going to come to India. And also, the best part is that this is only the start for the big push towards electric cars that we will be seeing very, very soon.